Welcome to the altar at St. Timothy's Church in Perrysburg, Ohio. I'm Jeff Bunk. I'm the rector or the priest here in residence. And it's my pleasure to be with you today in a special segment for Kids Worship, our monthly offering for families who have children. As we begin our session today, I want us to learn a song so that when we get to the end of the time, we can sing together and have some celebration with some very special tunes and words. Near the end of today's session, I'm going to invite you to sing a couple songs. This is one I think you know, but just to be sure, I want to sing it for you once and then have you repeat it with me. Jolly old St. Nicholas, lean your ear this way. Don't you tell a single soul what I'm gonna say. Christmas Eve will soon be here. Now you dear old man, whisper what you'll bring to me. Tell me if you can. I want you to sing it along with me this time. The words will appear as we go. Jolly old St. Nicholas, lean your ear this way. Don't you tell a single soul what I'm gonna say. Christmas Eve will soon be here. Now you dear old man, whisper what you'll bring to me. Tell me if you can. At the end, we'll use some different words, but they'll appear on the screen. Now you know the tune. Now, we're coming to you near December the 6th this time, and that's a very special day in the church's calendar. It's a day when we remember and celebrate St. Nicholas. Now, St. Nicholas, depending on where you live in the world, might have a lot of different names and some different understandings. If you are in the Netherlands, a place where shoes like these wonderful wooden shoes came from, you might celebrate Sinterklaas. And Sinterklaas would appear sometime during the night on Christmas Eve. And everyone puts their shoes outside their doors in the Netherlands on Christmas Eve. And in the morning, they might find candy or maybe even pieces of fruit or oranges in them. Now, the oranges are to remind us of gold coins, and that goes with some of the stories that you'll hear a little bit later when our very own St. Nicholas comes to visit us here. So, wooden shoes, Sinterklaas, the Netherlands. If you were born and raised in Italy, St. Nicholas might not be celebrated quite the same way. You might instead have a visit from someone named Befana, who is a woman who rides in on a broomstick, wearing a black shawl around her. Sounds a lot more like Halloween to me. What do you think? But it's attached to this whole time when we remember St. Nicholas and some very special habits that embrace children and their course through this time when we prepare for the birth of Jesus in all manner of ways. Now, Befana, this woman who came in riding a broomstick, enters the house through the chimney, and she leaves candy and gifts for children who have been good, and leaves soot or a lump of coal for children who haven't been good. I don't know about you, but that sounds suspiciously like some of the stories I was taught about Santa Claus in our own country. If you're from Central Europe, you may have heard of Saint Mikola, which sounds a little bit like St. Nicholas to us. Or maybe his counterpart, Black Peter. If you are a child of Finland, you would look forward to the visit of Juhlapukka, an old man with a long white beard who wears red leather pants and a red leather jacket that's trimmed in white fur. He travels on a sleigh that's, guess what, pulled by reindeer. He visits homes all over the country, leaving gifts for children. If you lived in Germany, you might know about Krampus, or know that Krampus is kind of the dark side associated with St. Nicholas. Papa Noros is in Iran. Even in the Arab republics, there's a tradition, something like that we know of as St. Nicholas. Ded Moroz comes to Russia on New Year's Eve. And in Northern Europe, Nyssa, a dwarf, visits on the solstice, December 21st, and leaves behind gifts and trails, especially for children. Also in Central Europe, the Christkind, or the Christkindl, is found, a sprite-like child, often depicted with short blonde hair and little wings that look kind of like we think of as angel wings on lots of the Christmas ornaments we see this time of year. Martin Luther is said to have been responsible for the tradition of the Christkind or the Christkindl. And in the Basque Country, you might run into Ortzero. All these and many more are ways in which the stories and the lore and the ways of St. Nicholas come, all pointing to the same thing, preparing for and living out the birth of Jesus into this world, the greatest gift that God has ever given us. Very recently on a Sunday morning, we heard words from the Gospel of Matthew when Jesus taught the people who came to him with these words, "Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Then the righteous will answer the king, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, so you did it to me." Those are powerful words, and they're used to teach a little bit later on who the Father will welcome most readily into heaven at the end of time, and who needs to be a little bit concerned about what's going to happen. But part of all of our celebration at this time of year is about precisely God coming into the world in a way that no one expected and that people easily overlooked, that they didn't see Jesus in the flesh, and they missed the opportunity to love Jesus, to feed and clothe and give water and shelter, to befriend this stranger who was in their midst, who was God, God's self. St. Nicholas and the traditions around St. Nicholas help us to recover and, in wonderfully friendly ways, celebrate that incredible opportunity to give gifts to each other, and especially to gift persons in need, and in so doing, to find that we are giving gifts to Jesus himself. Good morning, everybody. I'm here with St. Nicholas of Myron. He has signed on Zoom with me, and we're going to spend a little time getting to know each other. Good morning, Nicholas. How are you today?
Good morning, Jeff. I'm feeling quite well.
You know, you are a fascinating character. I understand that you came out of a wealthy background, and yet somehow it didn't spoil you. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I've always liked to think that I patterned myself after Jesus, and Jesus was fairly humble. My parents, they raised me to be a devout Christian, even though we had plenty, and that was something I tried to carry on with.
Oh, well, that's kind of interesting. Were there any particular adventures that you were led into to use that money in creative ways that made you think you were following the way of Jesus?
Well, you know, as I was caught up in my own grief and still tearful, thinking of my parents, I heard the neighbors crying and being very upset, and I kind of went over to the garden wall and listened, and the father was talking about not even having enough money to keep the home, let alone his oldest daughter had found someone she wanted to spend her life with. And, there's a dowry that has to be paid
A
and all.
dowry? Well, what's a dowry?
Well, a dowry is something that the bride brings to the union, uh, usually money or cattle or that kind of thing, because
Oh,
the property in the days when I was young, the property was all pretty much held by the men. So the women brought a dowry with them to the marriage.
well, that's very special. I suppose that still happens in our time. But so tell me a little bit more about your neighbor and what you were hearing, what he and his daughter.
They wouldn't be able to marry, and there was some talk about in those days, if you couldn't get married to a husband to support you, you had to go to work. But basically, you were a slave for someone else. You lived in their household, but you were basically their property. And to keep from being that, you wanted to have your own family and your own property.
So what did you decide to do about that situation? Because you strike me as a man of action.
I had some gold coins in a chest in the cellar at our home. My parents were quite wealthy, and so I ended up quite wealthy at a young age. And so I went and I thought, oh, I'll gather some of these up and I'll throw them in. And I saw stockings drying on the line, and I grabbed a couple of stockings, and I used one of those to fill with gold coins.
Oh, kind of like
I climbed,
stockings like we use at Christmas time in our day.
I suppose that could be. And I filled one with some gold coins, the amount I had to guess, how much he would need. And I threw it through the window. The neighbor had left his window open for some air. And in the morning, they found them. And I could hear their moaning from the days previously turned to joy. It was a similar scene like the Sea of Galilee, and the storm was thrashing the boat about, and out of nowhere came this big, strong seaman, and they thought he was an angel till they went back to the basilica or wherever the bishop was in Myra, and they saw that there he was, and he said, "Shh, don't tell anybody."
We're back, and it's time to redo that song we learned at the beginning of today's video, Jolly Old St. Nicholas, only this time we'll have some new words. Watch the screen and join along whenever you can.
Jolly old St. Nicholas, on this happy day, you bring joy and happiness, hear us as we say. Teach us how to be like you, loving, showing care. Sharing gifts we celebrate, joy beyond compare. Each December we await, come without delay. Saint of children everywhere, on your festive day. You love people far and near, help us to prepare for a Christmas filled with joy. Saint, now hear our prayer. Bethlehem, the star shines bright, lead us, Saint, today to the holy city where Christ the child is laid. As we see you kneeling there, we adore and say, may the joys of Christmas night cheer our world today.
Because of his kindness to children like the three young women, and because of his assisting sailors at sea in the story Nick told us, Nicholas becomes known as a patron of children and of sailors. A lot of traditions in our day have come down with St. Nick as a character who wears a red suit trimmed in white. You're mostly in white, trimmed in red. But the versions of St. Nicholas that we know and we call Santa Claus look a little bit like you. Some of the things that happen are children come to see that Santa Claus or St. Nicholas, and they sit on his lap and he asks them questions.
Can you tell me your names?
I'm Logan, and this is Lily.
What kind of things do you like to do around Christmas time?
I like to find my elf on the shelf and do funny things with him.
You like to decorate the Christmas tree?
I like to decorate the Christmas tree.
What's the one thing that you would like to have most for Christmas?
An Ultra 4 Nerf gun.
How about sister? Do you have something you'd like?
You want something you want?
Say unicorn. We like unicorns.
I want unicorn.
Well, if you could give the world any gift, now like the whole world, what kind of thing do you think you'd like to give the world?
Yeah. Peace.
Do you remember what they called Jesus? The Prince of Peace. So if you could give your family, mom and dad, any special gift, what would that be?
Maybe like a necklace for mommy, and maybe a shirt for daddy.
Do you have any favorite Christmas songs?
Jingle bells.
Jingle bells? Yeah. Can you sing some of that for me?
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh. Hey.
What would you like?
What kind of present would you like for Christmas?
What would you like for Christmas? What would you like him to bring you?
Cookie and ew.
Cookie. Well, cookies and milk are for him.
Honey.
What would you like? Well, I know you like granola bars. What would you like to give everybody? Happy? Yeah. Happiness?
Okay.
Okay, we'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Ben, can you tell me something you know about St. Nick or Santa Claus?
He goes down chimneys?
Yes.
Okay. So he goes down chimney.
Well,
Yeah.
Ben, in thinking about the world that we live in, what kind of gift would you like to give the world?
Go outside again.
Be able to go outside again? That's awesome.
Can you tell me your names?
Evie.
Yeah. And what's your name?
Evie.
Okay, we have Izzy and Evie. Nice. Well,
Evie.
Evie, can you tell me one thing you know about St. Nick?
That he gives presents.
What's one thing that you would like to do most for Christmas this year?
I like to decorate the tree.
Decorate the tree. Hello. Good morning. Thanks for coming to visit with me. What was your name?
I'm McEwen.
Okay. Do you have a nickname you go by?
I go by Mackie or Mac.
Mackie, huh? Can I call you Mackie?
And I make up a bunch of other nicknames like Cookie and Cupcake and Mac and Cheese.
Do you have certain things that you do around Christmas with your mom and dad? Do you make Christmas cookies?
Oh, well, sometimes.
Yeah. Do you guys decorate a tree? Okay, do you help with that?
We're getting a new Christmas tree since both of my, well, this is kind of sad, but both of my cats died and my Christmas tree is covered with cat litter and stuff. So that's why we're getting a new one because we still have the tree with cat litter.
Huh. Well, around Christmas time, there's a lot of music, Christmas carols and Christmas songs. Do you have a favorite one that comes to mind? Which one's your favorite?
My favorite is Jingle Bells.
Jingle Bells. You think you could sing a little bit of that if we could get some Jingle Bells?
I only know one part of the song, but I can sing that part for you.
Can we sing a little of the Jingle Bells? Is that the one? Jingle bells, jingle bells.
Jingle all the way.
Oh, what fun it is to ride.
One
On a open sleigh.
Hey.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Oh, what fun it is to ride in a wonderful. Hey, that was very good. Thank you.
I like your hat.
Thank you. Thanks again for coming and visiting with me.
I want to take this opportunity to ask some questions of you, perhaps like you might have asked of others. For example, what's the one thing you would like most for Christmas, Nicholas?
Well, I would like the world to be at peace, and I would like no one to go hungry.
Now, I'm going to assume that you do have a family around you. If you could give your family any one gift, what would it be?
The one thing that I would want to give my family is just support and love. That they knew that they could always have someone to come to if they were having a down period, someone that they could seek counsel with, somebody they could ask any question at all.
That's, I guess I would use the word for that, security, but maybe not the way that a lot of people think about security.
Correct. There's only so many things that we can keep secure about, but if we're present with one another, I think that's the security we can provide.
You know, St. Nick has brought joy to many lives throughout the ages. Sometimes it's all right to just have fun remembering St. Nick. This is a song that lots of us learned when we were just wee little kids, and it talks about St. Nick and some of St. Nick's other traditions. Now, there are lots of places here where you can join along, even if you don't know the words to all the verses. I'll bet you learn the chorus real quickly, and you can always join in that. There are a couple places, like in the chorus, where it says click, click, click. You might want to do this, or if you know how to pop your side of your mouth, do that several times. At the very end, in the last verse, there's words that go whistle and ball and a whip that cracks. And clap your hands like that. So there are 3 verses. The 3rd verse has got the whip crack, and every chorus after every verse has click, click, click in it. So join in when you can and have fun with this. Let St. Nicholas bring you joy. Up on the housetop, reindeer paws, out jumps good old Santa Claus, down through the chimney with lots of toys, all for the little ones' Christmas joys. Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Up on the housetop, click, 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 down through the chimney with good Saint Nick. Second verse is coming along now. Here we go. First comes the stocking of little Nell. Oh, dear Santa, fill it well. Give her a doll and laughs and cries. One that can open and shut its eyes. Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Up on the housetop, click, 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 down through the chimney with good Saint Nick. This is the 3rd verse. Don't forget the whip at the end of it. Look in
the stocking of little Will. Oh, just see what a glorious fill. Here is a hammer and lots of tacks, whistle and bell and a whip that cracks. Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Up on the housetop, click, 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 down through the chimney with good Saint Nick.
Thank you for joining us today here at the altar of St. Tim's and in some very special moments with children near and far. I hope that you've gained something about St. Nicholas today and that you'll take the message of the joy of giving and how that relates to the real heart of Christmas, the birth of Jesus, God coming into this world in the flesh to walk with us, to laugh and to cry right alongside us, and share it with those you meet.